No, he's definitely inventing some sort of weird bed. Hello everybody, welcome back to another Business Blaze video. Today, the 6 inventions that killed their inventor. Danny put this script together. This was my idea. I heard that the guy who invented the Segway fell off a cliff while riding a Segway, and my morbid mind was like, I'd like to know about more people who were killed by their inventions, because I'm sure it's gonna happen because people make like dangerous stuff and then they must test it out and then they must die. So I bet we've got some good ones. Before we get into it, if you've got a suggestion for Business Blaze to do in the future, let me know it in the comments below. While you're down there, like this video, you may as well. You're gonna love it. Some people were born to change the world. The history of the human race is brimming with game-changing inventions from boffins who changed the course of the future. Names like Thomas Edison, Alexander Graham Bell, they've helped shape the world we know today. And if you want to know more about that, guys, I'm going to get some shilling in the first 2 minutes of this video. I've got another channel called Biographics you should absolutely check out. We've done both of those guys. 20-minute videos on that channel. Without them, we could still be sat in darkness and communicating tonight's plans down the pub via the medium of smoke signals. I assume that's sarcasm because we weren't just in the dark before the light bulb was invented. We had like gas lamps. Before that we had candles. I guess before that we had fire, which you didn't have indoors, so you had to go to bed when it was dark. Also smoke signals. I think people just wrote letters or like carrier pigeons, or he invented the telephone, right? So he had the telegraph and the telegram and the boo-doo-doo-doo. However, while some inventors enjoyed the fame and trappings of pioneering success, others weren't quite so fortunate. In fact, a few notable names ended up paying the ultimate price for their innovative gifts that they introduced to the world. Here's a rundown of 6 inventions that killed their own inventors. I don't know why I moved to change the page. The first one's right here. The web rotary printing press. Got no idea what that is. William Bullock was no one-trick pony. The American inventor from the 19th century had already won awards and acclaim for his cotton and hay press, his seed planter, that sounds cutting edge, his lathe cutting machine, speaking of cutting, and his grain drill, before turning his attention to the rotary printing press. These guys' inventions, they did have much longevity, certainly not like Graham Bell. I've never heard of any of these things. To be strictly accurate though, William Bullock didn't actually invent the original version of the rotary printing press. He didn't even invent it. Richard Marchot came up with the first incarnation of the rotary press in 1843, on which sheets of paper could be fed through a revolving cylinder, much quicker and much more effective than the traditional flatbed printing press. I guess this is what newspapers have, you know, in the movies, when you see like, and we're going to the presses, and all like just rolls of newspapers flying all around the place. I guess that's like compared to the of like the original printing press. I know nothing about this, I should stop talking. William Bullock expanded upon Hoe's design to create his own web rotary printing press, allowing for large continuous rolls of paper to be automatically fed through the press. I was confused there for a second because it said web and I instantly jumped to like internet. This was a massive time-saving improvement over the old manual hand-feeding system, and it pretty much created a fresh revolution in the industry. I don't really know what's going on, so it's like an automatic thing. While making adjustments to one of his new presses for the Philadelphia Public Ledger newspaper, Bullock thought it would be a good idea to kick a driving belt onto a pulley. Why? His leg got caught in the machine and it was crushed. You know those spinning newspapers flying around the room in like in movies? I just imagine getting trapped in that would be horrific. After his foot developed, he survived. Okay, he survived, but his foot then developed gangrene. Then they tried to take it off, but he died from complications during the operation. This must have been before like drugs. One giant leap for the printing industry, one small step into the obituary pages of the very newspaper he was working for. Moving on, we got 6 of these, we should get cracking. The flying tailor. Here's an invention that never really took off. You already know where I'm going with this one, don't you? It says that. I don't. Like, I assume some guy's gonna die in some horrible accident. But it's fair to say that the death of French inventor Franz Reichelt was more down to his own reckless stupidity than anything else. Known in the early 20th century as the flying tailor, Franz became obsessed with the concept of designing a suit for aviators which could convert into a parachute if they were ever forced to make an emergency jump from a plane. That actually sounds amazing. You must have seen those videos of like wingsuit dudes on YouTube. These are incredible. This sounds amazing. I guess it's not going to end well. Early tests for Franz's coat parachute. definitely less of a ring to it than wingsuit, involved dropping dummies from the fifth floor of his own apartment building, and they went pretty well. But Franz was keen to test out his new design on a much higher platform and began a long campaign of petitioning the police to allow him to conduct his dummy tests from the first platform of the Eiffel Tower. Eventually, in 1912, the police granted permission, and a huge crowd of curious spectators gathered to watch the new coat parachute in action. What Franz Reichelt hadn't told the police, or even his own family or friends, is that he actually intended to ditch the dummies and climb into the coat himself to conduct the ultimate experiment. Well, that sounds alright. I mean, they went well. I'd definitely test it with a dummy first. It's a lot higher than the 5th floor. Despite, also, I can't imagine, like, dummies, A, weigh as much, or B, you know, like, a dummy doesn't get brain damage. Despite desperate attempts to talk him out of such a foolish move, Franz went ahead and jumped. I guess those were some last-minute discussions because he didn't tell anyone. Remarkably, film footage of the jump exists, can be easily found via a quick search for the Flying Tailor on YouTube. Alright, Danny, we're onto this. Okay, so he's like modeling this suit. Oh, it's way more bulky than I thought it would be. It more looks like he's wearing a parachute. Oh, he's standing on the edge. It looks like he's wearing like a duvet, like a big blanket. How did this work for dummies? Alright. He's going right up to the edge. Okay, oh, he's teetering right on it. He's teetering right on it. And he jumps. We switch camera angles. Oh, dude! No. Okay, yeah, I probably want to show that anyway, because I'm not going to put an image. If you want to see someone jump to their death, Daddy says, yeah, I should have seen this. The plummeting, it would be better called the plummeting to his death Taylor, would be a more accurate description. Thankfully, you don't see any of the gory details as a parachute fails to deploy and Franz falls to his death. Danny, did you watch the video? I mean, you don't see like his bones breaking or anything. It's like from a distance. But you see like the puff of dust come up when he hits the ground. Moving on. The motorcycle. Oh man. Although this one, like the tailor who dies, oh, you know, that's a bit more surprising. The guy who invents the motorcycle dies. Oh, what are they? Don't people in ERs call them organ donors? Sylvester H. Roper was an American inventor and gunsmith with a pretty impressive CV. In the 19th century, he invented the hand-stitched sewing machine and the world's first shotgun choke. I don't know what that sounds badass. This allowed the user to adjust the gun's shot spread to suit different targets and ranges from outside of the gun barrel. That's pretty awesome. On a side, like, I used to think clay pigeon shooting must be insanely difficult because you've got this big, heavy gun and you're shooting like this tiny little thing that flies out. But then I did it and you're like, oh yeah, because the gun, like the stuff that comes out of the gun is like in a million different directions. So it's kind of hard to miss. On a side note here, it's worth remembering that timing is everything. A British inventor was also developing a shotgun choke at almost exactly the same time, but Roper beat him to it by claiming the patency. Is the patency? Claiming the patency. Is that a phrase? Cool. By just 6 weeks. How is the guy who invented something like this gonna die? Like, surely he would die from that. However, steam engines were Roper's real passion, and he is widely credited for inventing the world's first motorcycle. The term motorcycle wouldn't be coined until sometime later, but Roper referred to his invention as a velocipede, maybe? A converted bicycle powered by a steam engine. Roper rode his final fateful lap of honor in 1896 on the Charles River bicycle track near Harvard Bridge in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Showing off one of his later velocipede models, Roper was sensationally stunning the crowd and his fellow competitors as he raced around the track in record-breaking time, leaving even the professional riders far behind. Well, yeah. He had an engine attached to his motorbike. The other guys were just pedaling with, their stupid legs. But it all ended in a fatal wobble. Roper was thrown from his bike and he hit the track headfirst. He died almost instantly. The autopsy revealed that Roper had actually died of heart failure. But the mystery remains as to whether the heart failure was brought on by the crash or the heart failure caused the crash in the first place. I guess he could have had like a heart attack or whatever, then wobbled, and then crash. I gotta look this up. Is 1896 gonna be way too early for video, isn't it? Yeah, no chance. Next up, oh no, this one's sad. I know this one. Marie Curie. Everyone knows this story. And she also didn't invent radiation, she discovered it. Winning a Nobel Prize once is not a bad achievement to boast about down the pub. Yeah, no kidding. It's like, alright Peter, what did you get up to this week? Won a Nobel Prize! Winning it twice could almost be considered showing off a bit. I think if you won it once, if I won a Nobel Prize, I'd always be like always mentioning it. Like any situation, someone will be saying something like, oh, it's really good. Peter just, young Peter, he just got into the great school. Everyone's so happy for him. Or he got into a great university. And I'd just be like, yeah, wait, He didn't win a Nobel Prize, did he? I'd be a real dick about it. Polish chemist and physicist Marie Curie was the first woman to win the Nobel Prize and the only woman to have won it twice. Today, she is still the only person in history to have won the prize in two completely different sciences. I think also her granddaughter won the Nobel Peace Prize, but I'm not sure about that. I think I made a video about it a while ago. She won her first prize for physics in 1903 and her second prize for chemistry in 1911, as well as the small matter of proposing the theories of radiation and discovering two new elements, polonium and radium. Polonium's that one that they poisoned Russian spies with, right? Marie Curie is also credited with inventing radiography or X-rays. But one of those discoveries, it came with a sting in the tail. Sting in the tail is rather a mild way of putting the horrible effects of radiation that ultimately led to her death. The harmful effects of radium were not known yet at the time, and Marie often carried around test tubes of the stuff in her pockets, exposing her to massive doses of radiation over a long period of time. She died in 1934 of aplastic anemia brought on by radiation exposure. I don't know what aplastic anemia is. Aplastic anemia is a condition that occurs when your body stops producing enough new blood cells. Aplastic anemia leaves you feeling fatigued with a higher risk of infections and uncontrolled bleeding. Also, it's not cancer, it's like something else. Causes. Number 1. Radiation. Even now, Marie Curie's papers and personal possessions are stored in lead-lined boxes because of their contamination. Anyone wishing to consult them is required to wear protective clothing and sign a liability waiver before being allowed anywhere near them. Even her collection of cookbooks is considered highly radioactive. The good news, there's some good news, is that they will all be considered completely safe again in 1,500 years. No, I'm sorry, 15,000 years. Next up, the flying car. The last time I looked out of my window, flying cars weren't a very common sight. You're absolutely right, Danny. But some of the world's finest minds have been working on the concept for decades. Back in the early 1970s, Californian inventor Henry Smolensky formed the Advanced Vehicle Engineers AVE company and got to work on developing the AVE Mizar, a hybrid car aircraft which welded together the wings and rear section of a Cessna 337 Skymaster with the body of a Ford Pinto car. I feel like this is the laziest flying car ever made. It's like, what do? Well, we got a car and we got a plane and we stuck them together. Dubbed the Pinto Craft. The name is as clever as the invention. Initial tests were carried out in California in 1973 with test pilot Charles Red Janus. Results weren't exactly successful, but the new craft did briefly take to the skies. It worked! The AVE Mizar was fueling plenty of media coverage at the time, and there were even plans for the craft to make a starring appearance in the upcoming James Bond film, The Man with the Golden Gun. Well, I think James Bond makes the starring appearance, but I can understand why a kind of flying car would be, exciting for people in the 1970s, when things were apparently boring. The original script features a scene in which Christopher Lee's notorious villain Scaramanga makes a dramatic escape in the flying car with his henchman Knick-Knack. It's a shame, it's genuinely a shame that didn't make it in. That would be good. Charles Red Janus was unavailable for the next test flight at Camarillo Airport in California, so it was left to inventor Henry Smolensky to take the wheel of his own vehicle, along with passenger and AVE Vice President Harold Blake. Tragically, the Pinto craft struck the top of a tree and dived into a pickup truck. Brutal. Before bursting into a fiery inferno and killing both passengers. The official report put failure of the craft down to poor design, bad welding, and loose parts. Wait, you didn't really even have to design it. And the welding was bad? You had one job. You had to stick a car and a plane together. All you had to do, and you couldn't even do that. Scaramanga and Knick-Knack never got the thrill of riding in a flying car. Well, lucky for them. It's a movie, can't we just fake that shit? The final invention of Thomas Midgley Jr. Oh, I know Thomas Midgley Jr. He's the guy who invented leaded paint. The American chemist and engineer Thomas Midgley Jr. will go down in history as the man who invented leaded petrol. Not paint, it was petrol, of course. Although history hasn't been so kind to him. Well, of course it's not. He invented leaded petrol. I really believe that made everyone stupid. Wasn't there something like in the 1950s where they were using all of this and then crime became more prevalent and because everyone was getting mildly poisoned by lead? Apparently this isn't a conspiracy. Midgley was something of a celebrated hero in his own time, at least. In the 1940s he picked up prestigious awards and honorary degrees in recognition of his many achievements. As well as invented leaded petrol, Midgley also played a major role in developing some of the world's first chlorofluorocarbons. Looking forward to Simon reading that one out loud. Oh, come on, Danny. I'm a professional. Chlorofluorocarbons, also known as CFCs. Challenge me, Danny. I'm probably saying it wrong. More commonly known as CFCs, or by the brand name Freon, these low toxic gases, commonly used for aerosols, refrigerants, and solvents. They also had some other major problems, like destroying the ozone layer. Midgley died in 1944, several decades before the catastrophic effects of his discoveries became known. Leaded petrol and CFCs had a dreadful impact on the environment and the ozone layer, which Midgley could have never foreseen at the time. Bill Bryson once remarked that Midgley possessed an instinct for the regrettable that was almost uncanny. I love Bill Bryson. And Time magazine recently included both leaded petrol and CFCs among the 50 worst inventions of all time. Wow, so he took home, what, 4% of every worst invention of all time as ranked by Time? So how did Thomas Midgley Jr. meet his demise? Well, I kind of hope it was from like lead poisoning combined with exposure to CFCs. They're non-toxic. It wasn't this. So, and it's also like, he didn't know. He didn't know. If you don't know the story, you might be expecting me to reveal that he accidentally set himself on fire while hatching his next scheme to unwittingly destroy the world. But in fact, his death had nothing to do with petrol or gases. Midgley was diagnosed with polio in 1940 and was eventually confined to a wheelchair. But his mind was still buzzing with brilliant ideas, and he got working on designing a complex pulley system to lift himself out of bed in the morning. Sadly, he ended up getting entangled in the ropes and strangling himself, becoming a victim of his very last invention. I feel like this one. His family, they probably found him like choking himself to death doing some like weird autoerotic asphyxiation thing. And they were like, no, he's definitely inventing some sort of weird bed. Bonus myths. Wait, where's the Segway Man? This is what I wanted, the Segway Man, Danny. There are so many stories floating around concerning inventors that killed their own inventor, but not all of them stack up. William Brodie has gone down in legend as a man who not only built the first gallows in Edinburgh in the 18th century, but also became their first victim. Oh, that's grim. Being made to build your own execution thing, I feel, is like being made to dig your own grave. It's like really grim. I often wondered if Brodie had fallen foul of the gallows after demonstrating his invention to his new clients. You just stick your head in the noose like this, and Bob over there pulls the lever. Yeah, it wouldn't exactly make him popular. But while William Brodie was indeed hanged at those gallows in 1788 for robbery, there's no evidence to suggest that he was involved in the design, and he certainly wasn't the first victim. Okay, so there is a connection, so you can see where the myth comes from, but it's also like, I just basically built them and then was killed by them later. He didn't invent them. British inventor Jim Heselden was the owner of it's here! Wait, it's a myth? Jim Heselden was the owner of Segway Inc. when he met his death in 2010, falling from a cliff from riding from the very product he was selling. While there is obviously a tragic irony in this accident, Heselden was not the inventor of the two-wheel transporter. Ah, okay. American inventor Dean Carman had first designed the product and founded the company in 1999. Heselden bought the company a decade later and suffered the fatal accident within a year of becoming the owner. Okay, so he didn't invent it, but he bought it and he owns the company. It's still ironic, but it's less good. The title of world's first astronaut, final one, is given to Chinese official Wan Hu, who apparently made man's first journey into space around 2000 BC. Oh, come on, this is obviously a myth. Going to space in 2000 BC? How? Wan Hu's unorthodox method was to attach 47 gunpowder-based rockets to his chair. His dutiful servants lit the fuses and ran for cover as their master was propelled into space. No, he wasn't. Neither Wan Hu nor his chair were ever seen again. However, this is simply a mythical story, and there's no proof that Wan Hu ever existed, and if he did, he sounds he was as mad as a box of frogs. Obviously. No one goes to space 4,019 years ago. This has been Business Blaze. How was that? Oh yeah, it was inventors. I say, how's this related to business? But we can go off script. We can do things that are a little bit different. If you've got a different idea for us or a business idea preferred, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. We can make them. We can go through them. It'll be fun. Thumbs up this video, subscribe, hit the bell, check out my other channels, they're linked to below. Thank you for watching.